All right, Liam, let's take a look at your paper. Emily format first. You got to have the same font as the rest of your paper, so make sure you change that. This is the class name, not the assignment, so change that. The calamity of cruelty. Good alliteration. It's okay. I kind of know where you're going with it. And we'll maybe talk about how this could be used for you. Just looking at your introduction, I know it's too short, and I'll tell you why in just a second. But I really feel like AP level class, I really want you to build up a really strong introduction. Again, let me talk about why. So you start with a quote, which I think is actually a really cool quote. One, you don't cite it though, so we have to have some kind of citation here. Again, this is where you're getting in trouble in college. You use a quote from somebody, don't cite it. That's called plagiarism. So you need to make sure that you have in-text citation for anything that's not your own words. Even if you're giving credit to somebody else in the text, you have to cite it somewhere. Throughout an individual's life, one is presented with adversity in many forms. Weakness is exhibited, and then I like that concept as you dive into weakness. When they develop immoral characteristics, which you'll get to down here. So you're trying to tie all this together here eventually. Now, you've yet to mention the play. You've yet to mention anything, okay? So in the next sentence, you not only mention the play, and of course I know Shakespeare is kind of well known, but you would use his first and last name. Just get used to that with any concept. And William Shakespeare's tragedy Macbeth. You get into both the topic and your main points here all in one sentence. So literally there's one sentence of actually building up your topic before you get into the thesis sentence. And that simply shouldn't be true. I like that you took at least 3 sentences to kind of get into the concept of the paper, but this needs to be built up a little bit more before you get to this. Some background information, something to kind of build up this topic. Now, I know we worked on your thesis, and I think it's a good thesis, how they'll indulge in immorality to achieve their goals, and I like it, and I'm going to talk about why it's going to suffer, at least through the first body paragraph, as we move forward. So, you did a really good job. We talked about topic sentences too. I just got done talking to another student who actually had decent topic sentences, but let it be known that a lot of your classmates didn't. So good job at least trying to come up with a decent topic sentence. So a couple things about this paragraph, what I would like to see you do. You talk about his progression of how he calls her, what he calls her, and then you focus on the end. And then you go back to the beginning. After Macbeth is named King of Scotland, they exchange roles. So you go back to the beginning. Talk about a little like before and after the switch of power. So before the switch of power, he referred to her as this and this. After the switch of power, he referred to her as this and this. And then kind of wrap in what that means. So as far as where your analysis is, your analysis should be on this concept. Humans will indulge in immorality to achieve their goals. And I would argue that you have not talked about that concept in this first body paragraph yet. You talk about how his remarks are apathetic. No comma here since you don't have a complete sentence here. Hold on. I'll get back to the analysis in a second. A couple other your classmates did this too. Using semicolons when you should use just commas. This one is correct. Sorry, I'll get to the one that's incorrect here in a second. She feels desolate and insignificant to her husband, comma, a result of excessive ambition to protect the throne. This is just explanatory material, basically, so you do not need a semicolon to divide that. You'd only use a semicolon if it was a whole complete new sentence, which it's not. And there's another time that you use it. This one down here is incorrectly used too, so you got to fix that as well. All right, but anyways, back to your analysis. There's no real analysis of this idea of how, and if you go back and look at your topic from your assignment, it is, examine the acts of cruelty and how it functions with the person that commits those acts, which you've said down here, but the whole end of your body paragraph is about Lady Macbeth. She feels desolate and insignificant. Her graveness is an effect of his actions. She's seen washing her hands of Duncan. but you've yet to really talk about Macbeth and what it's done. What does it mean about Macbeth? You haven't really dove into that concept yet in this body paragraph. So you really need to focus on him. And you can talk about some of this stuff and do the whole beginning and end. Beginning, she's like this, and she's like this. And because Macbeth does this, it proves this, and you'll obviously go into a lot more detail with this example, why it's this immorality that is prevalent in this example. So that's where we really want to go with that analysis in that body paragraph. All right, so here we go with Banquo and Macbeth's friendship. And again, I think your topic sentence could be stronger. I also think your transition could be stronger too. I know you're using one. You have a misuse of a comma there too. So I think your transition could be stronger. This could be stronger. This follows, Liam, much closer to what I would want to see with say, show, mean. So you have say, you're showing here about he played most folly, shall be kings. He must be eliminated. He has no second thoughts about applying the father and son's murder. And then you get, this is your start of your analysis. Okay. So in this scenario, he exemplifies human nature. So we're going back to our plot here, his immoral concept. Okay. To yield freely to foul behavior. His aspirations to secure the throne and have supreme authority over the land trumps his value for the friendship he shares with Banquo, which is good. Unlike the previous situation. So this is, I really like that you're doing this. You're tying it back into Lady Macbeth. And you talked about this concept in the topic sentence, but didn't dive into it down here, that it's immoral not to love your wife, basically is what you're trying to say. But I would love to have you dive deeper into that concept in here. But I like that you tied it back into the last one and kind of compare and contrast. That's a really good concept to use on the in your writing and on the test, is to keep tying all of this stuff together and how it's a little bit different but the same, right? It's considered more violent. Now, I could also think you could dive a little bit deeper into the idea of violence and how people use violence to solve problems as an act of cruelty. So I think you could even get a little bit into that and what it means in the grander scheme of things. This would be, again, a weak transition sentence. I'd love to see that get beefed up a little bit. You need a real strong topic sentence in here as well. Very beginning, just say the beginning of the play, after his prophecies or something like that. All right, so third body paragraph with your say, show, mean. I'm glad you used this quote. I think it's a really good concept to talk about cruelty. And I would even emphasize a little bit the idea of, use the word babes, like he murdered young children, and how that's different. And, Fleance, even though he was his kid, represented an affront to his crown. But Macbeth's kids didn't represent that, but yet he's so willing to kill them. I think that would be a really interesting, when you talk about immoral behavior, that's a really interesting concept to maybe touch on in here that you don't really do. So anyway, so think about that. Again, with your mean, I think it's much stronger in this paragraph with what you're trying to get across for analysis. That talk about the change over time. He becomes driven to repeatedly indulge in the pleasure of power despite the harm he's inflicted on others. He grows into a blazing fireball. I like that concept. He completely embodies the character of a tragic hero, one who was initially righteous and noble. So this is a sentence fragment. So maybe expand on this or combine these two sentences maybe a little bit to make it even stronger. But analysis is definitely better in here. But again, talk about the whole immorality with this and how that progresses would even make it stronger. All right, so take a minute with your conclusion to really go over the main points again. You kind of shove these two together, but this gives you and your reader a chance to really adequately summarize what you've been talking about, almost like to really beef up your point that you made here, right? So that's what a conclusion should do. You should restate what your main message was and say, see how I proved it in these 3 body paragraphs, and here's my first body, here's my second body, here's my third body. So really take the time to do that. Immensely increases, that means nothing. So find a different way to say that. People should pursue their goals. However, one should not become cynical to the degree presented through Macbeth's character in this play. The result of such a predicament only ends in self-destruction. So yes, sound advice at the end, Liam. Do not kill people like Macbeth to get your goal. I think you could probably word this a little better and maybe a little bit. I like the idea of self-destruction when people try to reach their goals, and maybe even present the concept that, maybe people only thought, oh, I'll just do like one act of immorality and then I'll be okay after that. And, is that maybe Macbeth? Like, okay, I'll kill Duncan to get me closer to the throne, but that's it. And then once he has that taste of power, oh my gosh, I need to kill Banquo now because he remembers. And oh my gosh, I need to kill Macbeth now because he knows I'm supposed to be afraid of him. So, those are the kinds of things that I think you really could work on. All right, so works cited. This gets tabbed over, so make sure you tab that over. And this should have a accessed on date. So you need to have an accessed on date, and then this one is correct as well. So some really good things in here, Liam, but a couple of things I want you to work on. So good luck on the rewrite.